You are watching the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.tecntv.com. Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Permanent Associates. I'm your host. Oh, let me get that up there. The Reverend Randy Pearl. Today I am donning my clergy hat because based on the discussions today, we're going to bring you some stuff from a biblical and a scientific perspective. And so, I don't try to be thinking like, they just throwing some stuff out there. I had to put some clout behind, what it is that we're going to be bringing today because that's just what I do. But anywho, I hope you all had a fantastic week thus far. Of course, it is Friday. Pardon me not wearing red, but it is Red Friday. This is the time we take to thank our men and women who are serving our nation around the world, making their sacrifices, commitments, in our freedoms, our constitution, and our way of life. We thank you and we salute you and we wish you nothing but a safe journey back home to your friends, family, and loved ones, wherever that may be. But today, like I was saying, hope you all had a fantastic week and a safe Labor Day weekend and all that good jazz. Got Tiffany with us today. We're picking up on, this is part two of the Origins of Humanity series. And so we're going to get it in today because, I'm excited to talk about this. This is like one of my favorite topics that I don't really get to talk about. And so I'm just excited. So I'm ready to get into it and bring her on. Tiffany, what's cracking?
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a
Yes.
joy to be here. But
Yes,
wait a
absolutely.
minute. What's with this Reverend Randy?
I am an
Her.
ordained minister. I just don't practice. I'm not in a church or anything. But I do have the title. I am a ordained minister. So every now and then, when I'm ready to put the smack down, on the people, I don that hat. So I wear many hats, and I just put them away when I'm not utilizing them at the moment. But today I said, what, I'm gonna throw a reverend up there today so everybody understand that this is a real deal, and we're gonna get it in. We're gonna bring some word. We're gonna bring some truth, some facts, some science, some theories of evolution. Theories of natural creation and all that good stuff. We're gonna compact it all together, and we're gonna let the people decide.
Wow.
We're gonna let the people decide on what it is, and go from there. So, how's things going? How things are going in your neck of the woods?
Everything's good. We're enjoying our weather.
Good, good.
Everybody, loves California for the weather, and we've had some really terrific weather the last uh, couple weeks, and especially today and yesterday.
That's good. That's
So,
good. It stays hot down here in Texas, even in the wintertime. It's hot. So I look forward. It is cooling off though. It stayed in the 90s this week. So I'm happy for that because it's cooling down. Although that's still hot, but it's more tolerable than 110. So I'm grateful for that, and I can't wait November, December hits when everybody's like shivering, and I'm walking around in shorts and a t-shirt, and like, yes, finally. So,
Is that because you were like you had that dual citizenship in Alaska and that's why
well,
you're not
well,
cold in the
no,
wintertime
no,
here?
no, no. I am a winter baby. Born and raised in Chicago, so cold weather is kind of like just part of my DNA. But Alaska's winter is a little different. I will say that, but not anything like East Coast winter. People actually that want to get a real winter, they leave Alaska to come to the East Coast. Kid you not, to get real
Mm.
winter. So, it's although it's a lot of snow and yes, it is cold there, but it's just a different winter. It's just different. And on top of the temperature, it's a dry cold in Alaska, so you just don't really get the full effect of cold. So it's just weird. It's just different. But nonetheless, I can't wait. But we before we get into it, we have to preface we have to preface this discussion today with some "Are you smarter than a fifth grader?" type material. So
Oh.
yeah, so we're gonna talk about the continent of Pangea or Pangea, however people want to pronounce it, but I say Pangea, and how at one point in time in our history, in our world history, that the continents were allegedly connected together. I say allegedly because I wasn't there, so allegedly connected together, and and I came along much later. So but the continents were connected together, and this will lay the foundation later on in our series as to how people post flood migrated around the world and established their kingdoms and whatever else. But like I said, I want to lay down the foundation first so everybody, because there's people that actually don't know this stuff, shockingly. but but welcome to the show where you'll get educated. So without further ado, we're gonna get started here right now.
In this program, we're going to learn about Pangaea. What is Pangaea? Pangaea was a supercontinent that existed over 250 million years ago. Today, the Earth is made up of 7 continents. A continent is a large landmass found on Earth. On a map, you can easily find the continents of Antarctica, Australia, Asia, Europe, Africa, South America, and North America. Scientists believe that at one time all the land on Earth was joined together as one big landmass, the continent of Pangaea. Pangaea is an ancient Greek word that means all lands. During the Jurassic period, the time of Allosaurus and other dinosaurs, Pangaea started to break up. The process of breaking up is called rifting. The continents reached their current location and arrangement about 35 million years ago. Continents continue to drift today. Now that you have a better understanding of Pangaea, think about this. Could there ever be another Pangaea where all the continents are joined together?
That's something to think about. And
Wow.
it paves the way because we also got to take into consideration that over the course of these millions of years that our current global makeup exists, that there were land masses, land bridges, if you will, that now have sunken into the ocean and everything else. So there's evidence that there was connectivity of all the continents at one point in time throughout world history. And so this is how people migrated, across the continents, over time. It was, through land bridges, just walking across, it was all connected. And so over time, we separated, and now we have, this these bodies of water that's in between us. So the development of ships and everything else became necessary. They said, okay, we know that there's land over there. We just can't get to it right now. So let's build this boat and go across. And then came planes and everything else. So here we are. But um, I wanted to get into next, talking about, the evolution, or I should say the theory of evolution of humanity itself over time. In this video here, it kind of gives a breakdown of how the origins of humanity started in Africa, which is relatively known to everyone, hopefully. There are some people out there, especially of the white supremacist type, who think that they originated out of the Caucasus Mountains. No, you did not. Sorry. Sorry to bust your bubble, guys. But you came out of Africa, okay? Your DNA originated out of Africa. Now, my argument here, I'm kind of like against the idea that we evolved from apes. That whole progression thing. I'm kind of against that. I mean, I see the similarities. I get the science behind it. I, I just can't fully buy into it. But I'm not dismissing it. I just can't fully buy into it. What are your thoughts
Right.
about that?
I'm with you on that. I can't really buy into the whole thing, but I am open to what has been shared uh,
Mm-hmm.
by you to me in regard to the subject matter. Uh, I believe very strongly that the migration out of Africa is what caused all these cultures, to come to be.
Right.
Um, and then ultimately, the survival of one culture in the Caucasus Mountains. And however long that took for them to get there, it took them to get there. Now, I will say, because of the arduous journey that they had undertaken, that they did, they did survive and they created a
Mm-hmm.
culture for many generations to come. So you have to give credit where credit is due there.
Right. Right.
But understanding that the original place that you came from was Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's been, we talk, I don't know if you talk about albinoism or being an albino. Albino is a different coloration in the skin. So if you had that group of people who couldn't stay in the sun because they would burn up, right? They had to find a way to an environment that was conducive for them
Mm-hmm.
to live.
Right. Right. Yep.
So that makes sense. And then out of that journey, were these established cultures. And, um, you know, there's a book that I will share with you a little bit later, either in this segment or the next segment, that really talks about how these civilizations came to be through language. So I'm not basing it on my spiritual perception or my spiritual anything religious. I'm basing this on language and the origin thereof. So,
Right.
but I will.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. And the book that you're probably talking about, I don't know, I could be wrong here, but the one book by Yuval Noah Harari entitled *Sapiens*, and I hopefully the glare can't see it probably, but it's
You
called
can't
*Sapiens*.
even see that.
Yeah, I can't even see it. My bad. But it's in on my Kindle. But the book *Sapiens*, a brief history of humanity. The book is pretty thick. It's a few hundred. It's about
Well, I do
four hundred
have the
pages.
title of the book. Let me just say that. I do have the title, and the book is The Ethiopian Culture of Ancient Egypt.
Okay.
And that right there talks about the hieroglyphics, and we broke it down. This is a book that was inspired by one of my colleagues years ago, and we broke it down. And he broke it down from hieroglyphics and our language to determine what is real or what is the truth in this whole thing. right? Where do we come from? Because that was a real conversation we had years ago. I was like, if we all come from Africa, how did all these other civilizations and cultures come to exist? And so, he did some research and he and came up with this book. So this book will probably be, it'll be available certainly by the end of the series.
Yeah.
And, but that's where my information is coming from because we really did, he's the author of the book. It was inspired by conversation that we've had or things that he thought about. And so I'm really coming from a different perspective because I don't think most people do. Most people either come from the ethers, this is what I think, and it's not documented.
Right. Yeah.
But
It's a
this
thing
is
versus
different.
what you know, and what is known. Collectively known. So I know I agree with you
Right.
there. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get into like a series of different various books, to books and videos to back up and to authenticate everything that we're discussing here. We're not going to be throwing anything out there that's unfounded or our own theories. It's going to be none of that. It's going to be just pure facts, pure, like documented, peer review type of work that we're going to discuss. We're going to bring to the forefront. It may have been just forgotten through history or just loss of interest or whatever, but we're gonna bring all this stuff back to to the light and discuss these things because it's important for us to understand, where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. And I always talk about that, And so, without further ado, before we get into the next video, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for a very very simple solution to avoid being detected by the big brother, if you will. Check out. Oops, sorry, wrong. check out. Go to forfreedommobile.com and use promo code RPERM. You can click. Go ahead and scan the QR code right there. Take you directly to the website. You go ahead and sign up. And you can sign up for mobile service that will not be able to track who you are, where you are, what you're talking about, what you're texting, or who you're texting, or whatever. So this is total secure communication at forfreedommobile.com. Use promo code RPERM and get your first month for $9.99. Thereafter, depending on what plan you sign up for, you will get either for $19.99 or $39.99 a month. And it's all about how valuable your security and your freedom is. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, scan the QR code, use the promo code RPERM, and get it cracking. So, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and throw up the next video of discussing, humanity over time. I'm gonna pause right there. I want for the viewers, the ones that are watching this show, not the ones that's listening. Sorry, can't help you out. But I want you to pay particular attention to the icon in purple. We're gonna get pretty detailed into this person or this species here in the next segment here.
Well, that's very, very interesting. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, I thought it
But
was
I will,
interesting too.
it is very, very interesting. And here's the interesting part. Lucy was founded 3.2 million years ago. And then her male counterpart came 4.4 million years ago. So when they say like 2 million years ago there was an existence, and I get that, but and then we developed. But civilization really did start at that point because there was more, you know, we evolved into this
Right.
human state.
Hmm.
But yes.
You talk about Lucy, and this is the third time. When I say time, I mean as in segments that we have
I
done
know, right?
that you mentioned Lucy. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're finna meet Lucy today. Here she is.
Yay!
In 1974, the discovery of a 3 million-year-old female that walked on two legs rocked the world. Researchers knew her as AL2881. To the public, she was simply Lucy. Scientists tried to piece together a picture of her life. She likely slumbered in trees, and some think she might have died after falling from one. But questions remain about her species, Australopithecus afarensis. Namely, how similar was its brain to modern humans? And did it grow?
This is why I said pay attention to the purple, ladies and gentlemen, because that's who they're talking about is Lucy, or that species rather. So there you go.
Grow up as quickly as chimpanzees, or did they take longer to reach adulthood, like human children? New research published in Science Advances provides insights into what we share and what we don't with our famous ancestor. A long-standing debate among anthropologists is whether afarensis' brain was organized more similarly to humans or apes. One indicator of that difference is the lunate sulcus, a fold of tissue toward the back of the brain. In apes, this particular fold is very pronounced, while in humans it has nearly vanished. This evolution in brain reorganization could be linked to more complex behaviors seen in humans, like vocal communication. Since the brains of Lucy species decomposed a long time ago, past researchers struggle to find marks of these features in the interior of fossilized skulls. Researchers have now found clear impressions of the lunate sulcus in two high-resolution scans of afarensis skulls. They indicate that the brain arrangement in Lucy's species was more similar to apes than humans. These detailed images of the skull and of the fossil's teeth were also used to examine the rate of brain growth. They found that the toddler, known as the Dakika child, was 2.4 years old at death, and that her rate of growth was as fast as a chimpanzee's. But when researchers compared the cranial volume of adult and toddler specimens, they found it took longer for the afarensis to develop adult-sized brains than chimpanzees, our closest living relative. Adults from Lucy's species had 20% larger brains than chimps, while the children had brains smaller than average chimpanzee toddlers. This means that the length of brain growth in Lucy's species was closer to humans, who are the only primates with teenagers. This longer period of childhood learning could have contributed to more advanced cognitive development. The longer period of brain maturation in Lucy's species challenges the obstetric dilemma hypothesis of the 1950s. Humans need narrow hips to walk upright efficiently, so some researchers at the time proposed that humans give birth to babies that grow outside the womb for longer in order to preserve a smaller birth canal. But despite how easy Lucy's species could give birth, they still had younger, more dependent infants. This means longer childhood may have been a solution to something other than upright walking, like social behavior development. In the future, researchers plan to use these extremely detailed skull scans to understand how the face changes during development, from Australopithecus afarensis to chimps to humans. These pieces are coming together, giving us a more complete picture of our ancient ancestors.
I'm Don Johansson, founding director of the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University, and best known for my discovery of Lucy 40 years ago. When we found these fossils at Hadar, older than 3 million years, foot bones, hand bones, we've got 2 complete skulls, we've got lots of limb bones, we've got vertebra, ribs, just about representing just about every bone in the body. And when you look at it as a whole, there's an amalgam of more primitive and more derived features that had not been seen before. We now have 400 specimens of Lucy's species, Australopithecus afarensis, named after the Afar region. And we know that there are very large individuals, which were males, and the smaller ones are certainly females. She was an adult because the wisdom tooth, the third molar, was fully erupted, so biologically she had stopped growing. More recent studies have shown that the rate of maturation was much quicker than it is in modern humans. So even though she was an adult, she probably was around 11 or 12 years old when she died. And we know that she was fully upright. And that's because we had the great fortune of finding a pelvis. And the pelvis, of course, is one of the most important parts of our anatomy for reconstructing how an individual gets around. And while the birth canal was very small, all of the biomechanics of that pelvis, the shape of it, the positioning of it, the attachment of the muscles, reflects an upright, fully bipedal gait, just as we have today. And her knee and her ankle were also preserved. And we know from the detailed anatomy of both of those areas, those anatomical regions, that they were certainly commensurate with fully upright walking.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into this discussion, just so you see that there was three different, sources that link together everything that we're about to discuss. So you can't say, "Oh, y'all making up some shit" or whatever. So this is scientific proof, and I will add, excuse me, I will add from a biblical perspective, this is predating the biblical era. So understanding that from the biblical times of Genesis forward, the Revelations span a period of 4,000 years. However, it is covered in Genesis a greater period that transpired, but just chronologically speaking, that the period was post prehistoric eras in which that we're discussing today. So, but we're going to get into that as well later on here in this show. But just so everyone has a foundational understanding that we're spanning a time period of literally over 7 million years, and we're condensing it down into 55 minutes. So it's just that's just what it is right now. So Tiffany, your thoughts about your girl Lucy?
Well, I mean, it just stands to reason. When you look at Ethiopians, the brain capacity, they really do. They have larger heads. They have similar characteristics and similar traits.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said, it's very, very interesting. You can look at Darwin, and Darwin and his not philosophy, I wouldn't say philosophy, but his research about how we came to be and the evolution thereof, and maybe it derived from Lucy or just the chimpanzee in general. But very, very interesting, and I love that civilization began that far, ago, that long ago,
Mm-hmm.
3.2 million years ago or 4.4. And we have some kind of place or origin to track, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many different things that are being done in scientific research to find out about extinct animals. And I was looking at a documentary a couple days ago with Stuart Brand, and he's talking about the extinction of the mammoth. And he's actually talking about the ecosystem, and when you burn down a tree or a tree is taken out of an environment, anything, any animal life, any human life at that is taken, is it doesn't survive there,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's bare, right?
Yeah.
It's barren. So his whole thing was to prove that, or to continuously work on the research to bring back the mammoth, right? The mammoth is extinct. They're working on seeing if they can reverse the extinction process and kind of bring back the mammal. Because if you could do that, then you could do that with anything that's extinct, right? A mammal, a human
True.
being, perhaps. So it's so interesting to me how far we have come, and identifying what it is, who it is, why we exist. And I think this is a great topic. It's a really great topic that we've chosen this
Yeah,
time around.
yeah, no, I agree. I think this would be a great series because, like I said, it's important to understand, how we evolved over time. Whether pre-flood, it was Adam and Eve were actually two apes, or they were actually two human beings, is unknown. I don't think that question will ever be solved unless Jesus or God Himself comes down and says they were apes. Okay, unless that question is answered, but we do have scientific evidence showing the evolution over this period of time pre-flood, and I keep saying pre-flood so everyone can understand that there was this transitional period of humanity where God flooded the earth and everything started all over again. So prior to that, there were different species of quote unquote humans running around throughout the periods of time, along with
Right.
dinosaurs and the woolly mammoth and all of that. So so we just have to understand that there's a conglomeration of things that were going on, some simultaneously, some at distinct periods of time. We talk about the ice age, we talk about global warming, a meteor hit the earth, which I kind of just dismissed that theory. Given what I've seen scientifically, it just some little rock fell out the sky and wiped out everything. Yeah, no. The Earth is hit with meteors all the time, and we're still walking around. So but anyways, speaking of woolly mammoths, folks, of course, it's that time
Yep.
of the show. It's that time of the show where if you're looking to switch up your shopping habits and you want to get away from liberal crazies, go to Mammoth Nation and use promo code RPERM and check out the products there. So here you go.
America's under attack, and they're all around us. I'm talking about liberal Democrats, and they're out to destroy everything that we've worked so hard for. Mammoth Nation's here to fight for you. You only get one vote, so let's join forces. We support conservative lawmakers and the causes you hold so dearly. We stand behind our police, veterans, the Second Amendment, and much more. We need your help, so join today.
See, the woolly mammoth is already brought back in the form of shopping.
I love it. I love the segue. I love the segue to
that
that.
was brilliant on my part. I know.
It was, I have to say.
But I would say the origins of ham. Now we're fast forwarding. We're fast forwarding now to post-flood era. 3 generations in, and Ham. I'm not gonna say 3 generations. 2 generations technically, but so Ham is the son of Noah, and coming from Ham is the father of the Africans or black people, and this would be we're gonna see in the video here, but they're gonna talk about Cush, Canaan, and all that. So there's gonna be some historical data I'm gonna throw behind this, but for the sake of time, here is the discussion of Ham and his origins.
Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. Have you ever wondered about the origin of all nations? It is interesting to know that the Bible addresses the origin of the peoples of the world, revealing that they all originate from Noah. Follow me on this new journey in video series on our channel where we will discuss the patriarchs of humanity, the ancestors of all nations. In the previous video, we addressed the Semitic peoples, descendants of Shem. Today, we will address the origin of African peoples, specifically the black people, who are the Hamites, descendants of Ham. I invite you to hit the like button, and after watching the video, share your comments and help us reach more people with our content. Together, let's discover the origin of Ham, the ancestral father of the blacks. After the great flood that devastated the world, Noah and his family emerged as the only survivors of humanity. God then instructed them to repopulate the earth. They were a total of 8 people, including Noah, his wife, their 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the wives of the sons. The Bible also tells the origin of the black people, revealing who was the ancestor of this ancient people. Discover the history of the African people in Genesis, chapter 10, verses 6 to 20. To understand the origin of the black people, it is important to first grasp who was the father of this ethnic group. In this context, we need to know the appearance of Noah, the great ancestral father of all humanity, and also understand how his wife was. Both Noah and his wife were of mixed race, meaning they had ancestry from various ethnicities. This diversity resulted in children with different skin tones, colors, and features, reflecting the ethnic variety present in their family. In Brazil, for example, the mixture of ethnicities is a remarkable characteristic due to its history of colonization by the Portuguese, the presence of native indigenous peoples, and the arrival of African slaves. This ethnic diversity has made Brazil a nation where virtually all origins from around the world come together, resulting in one of the largest mixed-race populations on the planet. It is then quite common to see siblings with different colors and ethnicities in Brazil and various countries, with Mexico being a notable example of this feature. Mexico has a significant population of mestizos, descendants of the intermixing between native indigenous peoples and European colonizers, mainly Spanish. The son of Noah who gave rise to the African people, the black people, was called Ham. Ham is considered the father of the African people, and it is through him and his wife that the black people originated. If there is an interest in learning more about the history of Ham's wife or the wives of Noah's sons, there is a video available on the channel to explore these subjects. Within the linguistics of the meanings of names in the Bible, it is fascinating and interesting to note that the name Ham holds a specific connotation in Hebrew and Aramaic. Ham literally means, of the color of something burnt, in other words, something dark. This suggests that Ham was described as a man with dark skin. The meanings of biblical names often relate to the ethnic and physical traits of individuals and can also be associated with aspects of their personalities. Ham is recognized as the ancestor of the black people. If you have any black relatives in your family or lineage, know that you are a descendant of Ham. Likewise, if you are a black person watching this video, know that you are a descendant of Ham, the son of Noah. The Bible also mentions that Ham was a married man, having a wife, and that he was the father of 4 sons who became the patriarchs of the black people. Ham's sons are considered the fathers of various black nations and peoples, thus being the patriarchs of this lineage. The firstborn son of Ham and his wife was named Cush, also known as Cush. The meaning of the name Cush is literally black, making him the first patriarch of the black people and the first son of Ham, as well as the grandson of Noah. Cush is recognized as the ancestor of diverse peoples and lands, one of which is the Kingdom of Cush. This ancient civilization flourished in the region of Upper Nile, located in present-day Sudan. The Kingdom of Cush was known for being a prosperous and powerful civilization, with its capital in Meroe, which stood out for its trade and wealth. The kingdom existed for many centuries and exerted influence in other areas of northeast Africa. Additionally, several other cultures and peoples in Sudan and adjacent regions may be considered descendants of Cush. Currently, it is not possible to accurately identify the land that the descendants of Cush, known as Cushites, inhabited, as they occupied regions in both Africa and southern Arabia. However, in ancient times, the Greeks referred to them as Ethiopians, which means burnt faces or black faces. Over time, the term Cush came to be mainly associated with Ethiopia. Furthermore, it is believed that the Kassites of Mesopotamia are also descendants of Cush. The second son of Ham was named Mizraim. He is the second patriarch of the black people, and his name in Hebrew literally means Egypt, which can also be interpreted as 2 Egypts or double fortress. The word Mizraim derives from Mizr, which means fortress or fortified place. The plural form Mizraim is used to refer to Egypt as a region with fortresses or as a land with distinct borders. As the name suggests, the descendants of Mizraim are traditionally associated with the ancient Egyptian population that inhabited the region we now know as Egypt. The third son of Ham was called Phut, also known as Put in Hebrew. Some traditions may vary in transliterations of the original Hebrew texts into different languages, but his name is Put. The third son of Ham was named Put, which literally means a bow. This meaning refers to the ancient African tribes that were hunters and frequently used bows for hunting and obtaining their food. Put is considered the ancestor of Africans based on biblical references and other historical sources. Some theories suggest that the descendants of Put may be associated with regions both in Africa and the Middle East. Some of these regions include Libya, Somalia, Nubia, and other areas in East Africa. Besides the mentioned regions, broader interpretations of the Bible suggest that the descendants of Put may have inhabited other areas in East Africa. Lastly, we have the fourth son of Ham and the fourth grandson of Noah through Ham's lineage. His name is Canaan, which can be interpreted as lowlands or lands of Canaan. Canaan was not the ancestor of Africans but of the famous Canaanites who inhabited the region of Canaan and were mentioned in various parts of the Bible, including the Old Testament. The Canaanites were a diverse ethnic group that occupied the region before the arrival of the Israelites. They ended up becoming the major rivals and enemies of the ancient Israelites. Canaan was also the cursed grandson of Noah due to an incident in which Ham saw his father naked and mocked him. As a consequence, Canaan was cursed. Many of Canaan's descendants worshipped demonic entities, which led to their downfall as they practiced the horrible act of sacrificing their own children to these creatures. Eventually, the descendants of Canaan were defeated by the Israelites. The sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Put, populated the African continent after the flood and also migrated to Asia, reaching Australia, where they intermingled with the descendants of Japheth, especially the tribe of Togarmah, forming united clans. From this union, indigenous peoples arose, with mixtures of both African and Caucasian peoples of Japheth's lineage, giving rise to some Asian groups as well. Furthermore, the descendants of Ham, through one of his sons, reached India and populated the region, becoming known as the Dravidian people. This was the story of Ham, considered the ancestor of the black people. Keep following our series, The Origins of Peoples According to the Bible. Soon, we'll be back with more information about the sons of Ham, and later, delving into the history of each nation. Feel free to leave your suggestions about which peoples you would like to see represented, as we will soon make videos covering these topics.
And that's where what we'll be doing is covering all of the different ethnic backgrounds through these upcoming series, ladies and gentlemen. And but we're gonna like peel back the onion, more so than what you see in this video here. So I think it's gonna be very interesting, nonetheless. But Tiffany, your thoughts on your ancestor there, since you are of Ethiopian descent.
You know what? Going back to the first video that we had viewed, and I guess they were Somalian, talking about we're not black, right? So Africans or African Americans don't associate themselves black because
Right.
that's not a culture. It means nothing. Africa, if you're African, you're African, right? So they would want to associate with the culture or a place where they're from, not necessarily color
Color,
as determined
right.
by
And
the American people.
Thank you. I was I was trying to formulate the thought there. It's not so much of a, nowadays anyways, for Africans, those that are residing in Africa, it is more of a national pride thing than a continental pride. So ladies and gentlemen, I put out a challenge. Show me an African person who will address themselves or identify themselves as purely just African. You won't find it. They're gonna say they're Ethiopian. They're gonna say they're Nigerian. They're gonna say they're Chadian. They're gonna say they're Congoan. They're gonna say what their nationality is, removing the fact of it's just kind of like, duh, I'm from Africa, the continent. Just like we would say we're from America when we're abroad. We would say we're from America. We kind of like dismiss the fact that we're black, we're Asian, we're white, or whatever. Just know we're Americans. It's the same. It's the same
Right.
concept. It's the same concept. So going back to your point, Tiff, about the young man who said, we're not black. He was like, no, because he was trying to, he was young. So I credit his knowledge base, but he was young, and so he
Okay.
didn't have the. I would guess that his vocabulary wasn't developed enough, but he knew what he was talking about. He was saying, "We're not just black. We have distinct features that will distinguish who we are as people." And so he knew what he was talking about. He just didn't have the vocabulary to explain it. But
Well, I guess you could say that, and I think some of the uh, most intelligent people come from the continent of Africa. I can't say
true,
that necessarily, and I can say that just because I've come into knowing some of the people from Africa. Some of my friends are African, and some Americans won't get into conversation. There's certain people that they won't get in conversations with. Now, you won't get
true,
African American, you're not going to get in the conversation about culture. Black American, you can, because they know that Black Americans don't know their history. So
true.
when you look at the African culture, and then you understand the African American migration and how we got here, and that's going to be discussed on the two when we start to get into this series a little
Hmm.
bit further, because I do have an
Yes,
interesting perspective about that.
yes,
So, but yeah, in terms of whether we associate with black meaning a color, or more or less in our language to shine, or the origin thereof, where we're from, our nationality, where our roots are settled, that's a whole different thing.
it
But
is. It is. And
it
and
is. I mean,
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get into the etymology, etymology, the linguistics. We're gonna get into all of that. I know I chopped that word all the hell up, but y'all know what I'm saying. Like the origins. We're
right.
gonna get into the origins of all of this stuff and like where it came from, why it came about. Because everything is descriptive. Because you got to look at, there from the time of Nimrod and building the Tower of Babel, from a biblical perspective here, and he was defiant to God, and we got like literally 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna hurry up. So, so he was defiant to God, so God said, okay, I'm gonna fix your ass, and he dispersed,
Oh,
he dispersed that nation, making them have different languages, so they couldn't even communicate to continue to build their civilization. So this is where we start getting into, understanding that there are different dialects, different languages, because of certain events that have transpired over history. So we're gonna get into all of that. We'll continue the series. Tiffany, final thoughts.
I just love the fact that, again, that you're bringing this the way that we are, and we're really having a conversation about it. It's something that I believe that most people need to understand your origin, and understand that we're all connected. No one's greater than anyone else. No one's better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We are all connected. And if we understand that, then we can work together towards a better humanity. And that's
Absolutely.
really all I want. I want civility. I want, so, we're human beings. We should be able to figure this out, right?
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. Thank you, Tiff. We're gonna get out of here. We're like out of time now, so catch you as always. Catch you next week as always. And ladies and gentlemen, come back. Like I said, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna peel back some onions. We're gonna get deeper and deeper into this thing, and you're gonna be like, wow, wow, wow. So, like I said, it's this is an education for the soul. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you all next week. Be safe. God bless, and have a good one. You are watching the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.tecntv.com.